Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Another week, another monster visitor list for this Michigan program. And we said this a couple of days ago, and I'll kind of continue to say it and stand by it. It's a program that looks and feels different on the recruiting trail. You go back 12 months ago, we did not have this much blue chip talent taking trips in the spring to Ann Arbor. Momentum can look a lot of different ways. And yeah, Michigan has not landed a ton of commitments in 2026 just yet, but the momentum that they have, the amount of interest that they are garnering from prospects across the country, you get the feeling that Michigan is going to do some really good things in the 2026 cycle. Now, I want to get into a few names that we have not talked about yet that are either on campus right now or going to be on campus over the next couple of days. Fired up to get into it before we do. And as always, to the Michigan fans, appreciate you guys. And many of y'all know this as a Michigan fan. It's been so fun talking this program on the recruiting trail. This is about as dialed in as ever. I can remember this Michigan fan base on the recruiting trail. And I don't blame us. Like, this is by far the most exciting it has been to be a Michigan fan as it relates to the recruiting trail. The amount of support y'all have shown has been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, we're going to start this thing off with a guy from my hometown, Rochester, New York. And look, born and raised in Rochester, New York, watched a lot of high school football growing up in Rochester, New York. We do not normally have players of this caliber come out of Western New York, and that's exactly what we have in four-star wide receiver Messiah Hampton. If I were to describe his play in just one or two words, it'd be juice, it'd be playmaker. I mean, you turn on the film from this kid his junior year, whether it's acrobatic catches, whether it's a ton of juice in terms of yards after the catch with the football in his hands, he makes plays. And I think as Michigan fans, like if there is one thing we want to continue to add to this offense is playmaking ability. Messiah Hampton is, in my opinion, exactly what Michigan is looking for. Now, I think the second interesting part about Messiah Hampton and what I absolutely love is this kid's tough as nails at the wide receiver position, which is normally not a thing we talk about with these kids coming out of high school. There's multiple aspects on his film where he's either working through contact, he's taking hits over the middle of the field, he doesn't drop balls, he hangs onto the football. Toughness at the wide receiver position, again, we get wrapped up in, height, weight, speed, how big are you? What are your track times? You don't always talk about toughness at the wide receiver position. Messiah Hampton has that in a big way. And I think one of the things that intrigues me about Michigan recruiting these wide receivers this cycle as opposed to last is like if you had a top wide receiver prospect on campus 12 months ago, taking them around the facilities, you probably did not want to bring them to spring practice because I would guess that we kind of the offense that they were running to spring practice last year, 12 months ago, was not all that appealing to these Michigan wide receivers. And you kind of fast forward to where we sit right now, Chip Lindsey running the offense with Bryce slinging the pill around. You want to take these players to spring practice and kind of let them get an early glimpse of, hey, what is this Michigan offense going to look like in 2024? And, kind of show them an offense that, hey, if you're a top wide receiver in the country, you can come to Michigan, be involved, be productive, because we're going to be operating differently on the offensive side of the football with Bryce and with Chip Lindsey kind of over the next couple of years. Now, another wide receiver to certainly keep your eye on is Gordon Sellers. And I think what makes this one unique here is a four-star wide receiver, big body, obviously a relationship with his former quarterback, Jaden Davis, being within this Michigan program, commits on April 18th. And so that's inside of a month. This is where Michigan all of a sudden thrives, closing on commitments or recruitments late in the process. It happened with Bear McWhorter. It obviously happened with a guy like Bryce Underwood. When it comes to, hey, making a late push and making it happen, Michigan oftentimes comes out on top, at least over the last couple of months in terms of what we've seen. And so Gordon Sellers, inside of a month until this kid commits to his future program, interested to see if Sherrone Moore in this Michigan program can make a move. 6'2", 180. He really big body that works vertically down the field really well. As of right now, maybe a little bit of a one-dimensional guy. Like I'm just a big body that works vertically down the field and really good ball skills. I see a lot more that could be added to his game. Maybe a good comp here would be Cornelius Johnson vibes. And it kind of just came to my head, but I think that's kind of what you see when you look at the high school film. Another name that has popped up, a name that we haven't talked about yet, but is probably worth mentioning. Brian Bonner from the state of California. Michigan's been going to the state of California. We're going to talk about another California kid as well. We've talked about Savion Hitter. We've talked about Javion Osborne. And Michigan sits in really good spots for both of those running backs. Talk about another elite running back that Michigan certainly has a chance for. It's Brian Bonner. There's a lot to like about this kid. 6 foot, buck 85, 10.65 in the 100-meter dash. One of the fastest running backs in this 2026 cycle. And what fascinates me about Brian Bonner is he's both fast and quick. And you don't always get that. I mean, you look at a guy like Donovan Edwards, he was fast. He wasn't all that quick. He didn't have a ton of wiggle, wasn't elite at making people miss in short areas. Brian Bonner, the acceleration, the long speed, the home run ability, it is there. And you see that with the track and field times, and that matches up with what you see in his junior year stuff. But he's also a guy that when I'm between the tackles and I'm in a phone booth with a linebacker, I'm in a phone booth with a safety that's coming downhill, I got that wiggle. I can make you miss. I'm quick. And so I like Brian Bonner. And then the last thing is this is a big kid. 6'1", 6 foot and a half, 6'1", has probably a little bit of frame to fill out, if you will. Probably will play for Michigan around 205, maybe 210. But the contact balance is there too. And this is one of those running backs that checks a lot of the boxes where there's not a ton of running backs that do that. Like, to name your running back that has home run ability in terms of long speed, that also can make people miss, that also can work through contact. There ain't a lot of running backs that are checking all those boxes. And then on top of all that, I'm really selling you on Brian Bonner. I think there's a lot to be sold on him. He's a really good pass catcher. Started his career as a wide receiver. His sophomore year, caught for over 400 yards. So this is a guy that a lot of running backs don't have the pass catching chops as they come into the program. Brian Bonner does. And so, especially with the Chip Lindsey offense that likes to work with some screens, that's another intriguing aspect about Brian Bonner. Michigan has a lot of good options at the running back spot. And the way I look at it, I would be stunned if Michigan does not come away with at least one top running back in this 2026 cycle. Another name to probably shout out is Kevin Abbott from the state of Idaho. Obviously, we've had some success going up there in the state of Idaho. Really unique offensive tackle prospect, 6'5", 265 pounds, and he's probably 265 soaking wet. Like, you take a look at the junior year film, this is a slender offensive tackle prospect that has really good length, really good athleticism, and surprising, really strong at the point of attack. Like, he ain't a monster at the offensive tackle spot, but he does not lack the physicality or play strength when you turn on the film. Now, you got to fill out the frame, but these are kind of my type of offensive tackles. Hey, give me the tackle that has the ideal frame, that has the ideal athleticism, even if they're a little bit lighter. Because you come into Michigan and we can put 20 pounds on you in that early enrollee winter window like that. And this time, they're putting on good weight and they're going to maintain all that athleticism that they had previously. And so this is a kid that has the length, that has the athleticism, now just needs to add the size. And I don't know if there's a program across the country that I trust more to add size to a tackle than a guy like Kevin Abbott. Last one to talk about, we got two more to talk about. Havon Finney from the state of California. Reclassified kid, was a former 5-star in the 2027 class, reclassifies to 2026, box checking cornerback, 6'2", buck 75, probably needs to add a little bit more mass, but he's kind of young for his grade. 10.8 in the 100-meter dash. He's long. He's fast. He has very good ball skills. And then really smooth cornerback too, that can hold up in man coverage, which is not all that common for these longer, faster cornerbacks. Hey, you might be able to run in a straight line really fast, but can you change direction? Are you fluid? Havon Finney is. I mean, this is a guy that has a tremendous ceiling as a boundary cornerback. Last name I'll throw out there, Tyson Harley, who's on campus today. Obviously, teammates with 5-star edge rusher Carter Meadows. Because it's kind of funny, because when I was looking at Carter Meadows, when he kind of emerged as a Michigan prospect, you turn on the tape a little bit. And you obviously notice Carter Meadows, but you also notice the other edge rusher who looks almost identical to Carter Meadows, who's also tearing it up. Very similar kind of prospects. I would say Carter Meadows probably has a little bit more juice off the line of scrimmage, but this kid very similar. We made the David Ajabo comp to Carter Meadows. Probably could say the same thing for a guy like Tyson Harley. 6'4", 215, slender frame, but really good off the line of scrimmage, really good burst and bend, has some length, probably further along than Carter Meadows as an actual football player. There's some serious developmental upside to a guy like Tyson Harley. You certainly take him, and that probably helps your chances with a guy like Carter Meadows as well. We'll sign out there. Again, we didn't get through even, I think, half of the names that are going to be on campus at some point over the next couple of days. We might update this list maybe Friday afternoon. Well, maybe not Friday because we got Michigan hoops on Friday night. We'll think about when we update the names on campus. But we continue to say the same thing that we've said pretty much all offseason long. Michigan stepping a little bit differently on the recruiting trail, building this 2026 class. And although the 2026 class is not eye-popping right now, you look at what it might look like come the end of the summer or come December when it's time to sign the papers, this could be a really, really good class for Michigan. We'll continue to update it. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.